and welcome back to another episode of Mystery Red Reads. I'm your host, Mystery Red, and this is a trigger warning. This story covers material that may be upsetting to some viewers and readers. This is a disclaimer. This beta read in concrete is at the author's request. This video is for learning purposes. Today we're looking at a memoir, and we are looking at Chapter 11, If Clint Eastwood Could Do It, for No-Ant-5039, and their memoir with the working title, A Soul Exchange. I just got done talking to Ant because I had said in the end of chapter 12 that I was going to read chapter 13, but we actually had the table of contents and then our actual chapter titles a little bit mixed up because they're doing some revision. Obviously, this is revision and rearranging. So I think that this chapter 11 might be new to us, and then my next videos for them will be a revised version of chapter 1 and a revised version of chapter 6. So we are going to dive right in. I have a playlist for all of my reads for Ant that you can view at any time, and then I will have links to my other reads for them in the description. Here we go. Chapter 11, If Clint Eastwood Could Do It. Dear Janice, 28 years of sobriety. Happy rebirth day. You sounded reflective and peaceful last night when I called to congratulate you. Though it might go without saying, I'm grateful to have you in my life. Heads hung low after a St. Patrick's Day bender. Connor and I attended our first AA meeting together. You planted yourself in a seat in front of us. From the farthest corner of the room, I studied the scene. With your pink and red flannel shirt, hiking boots, and a smile, I liked you right away. Hungover from the night before, I couldn't imagine 20-some-odd year. Okay, my brain is stopping me because I want to add a paragraph line here, but I'm contemplating. It's unusual for you to not have one, so I'm still contemplating whether or not this could perhaps belong up here, and so that's why I hesitated to do it. But my brain kept flagging that it needed to be separate, so I'm going to separate it for now, and then if when we're reading and then we read it, if they seem to be part of the same paragraph, we can always just change our suggestion. Heads hung low after a St. Patrick's Day bender. Connor and I attended our first AA meeting together. You planted yourself in a seat in front of us. From the farthest corner of the room, I studied the scene. With your pink and red flannel shirt, hiking boots, and a smile, I liked you right away. Hungover from the night before, I couldn't imagine 20-some-odd years without alcohol. Long-term sobriety seemed as unattainable as the federal deficit being wiped clean with monopoly money. A few women were pushing me to get a sponsor. Repelled by the invasion of their nosy suggestions and enthusiasm, I started to watch you, busy in the kitchen, serving coffee, or petting a dog by the door. Oops. After 3 weeks of meetings and managing to abstain from booze, I asked you to be my sponsor. While I was relieved you said yes, you sure intimidated me with all those contingencies. Often, I remember that, okay, now, you may give this to me. But I want to know what the contingencies are. They may be coming, but I'm just going to note them now, and we can go back and delete this comment when you give them to me. Yeah, okay, that's what I'm going to do for now, because I don't want to forget anything. All right, here we go. Often, I remember the first assignment you gave me. Make a list of, there it is. Okay, awesome. You're so brilliant. Okay, we're going to take that out. Good. We're good to go. Often I remember that first assignment you gave me. Make a list of all the things you're willing to do to stay sober. On some level, I tried to impress you with my answers as abstract as the idea of willingness itself. Sure, I'll stay away from people drinking or using to avoid temptation and be open-minded about my relationship with my mom, accepting that she is sick too, whatever it takes. Satisfied with my commitment, you instructed me to read the first 164 pages of the big book, and on Saturdays after the meeting, we would work through the 12 steps. In an ironic test of my willingness, Saturdays didn't work for me. I spent my weekends with my boyfriend. Since our relationship was long distance, there was no way I'd sacrifice my limited time with him. White-knuckling through every day of the week, ending in the letter Y, I rationalized that as an old-timer, you wouldn't understand where I was coming from. After stringing together excuses, I broke off our arrangement and sought sponsorship from a fashionable younger gal with 2 years of sobriety and a boyfriend also in recovery. Nothing personal. I was chasing a built-in friendship and maybe even double dates. From a distance, you watched me flounder. How many times did I have to raise my hand and reintroduce myself as a newcomer? From the worn couch in the back corner, my voice trembled to announce my name. I am an alcoholic. The response was like a petting zoo. People rallied around with affection, support, and cheesy slogans. So, we're going to have a break. We're going to go on. But if I'm reading this correctly and I'm understanding, so she laid out contingencies that you were not really ready to live or to, I don't want to say live up to, but like fulfill or to abide by. There you go. Rules. And she's watching you. And you basically went off and made a friend that you could potentially have double dates with. Where was that? So yeah, so you went and chased a friendship with someone you could relate to that wasn't so, I guess, experienced in their sobriety. From your distance, you watched me flounder. So when you're saying this paragraph, I'm getting that you floundered as in you'd fall off the wagon and then get back on, and that therefore you'd come to meetings and then stop coming and then come back and have to reintroduce yourself because you're starting all over from the beginning. So if that is what you intended from this paragraph, that is what I got from it, and I just wanted to let you give you the reader response, reader reaction, reader thoughts. That's where I'm at, and I think that's what you were going for, and so I just want to confirm that for you. And we're going to keep going. Well, I thought I was just inundated with long suppressed emotions. My period was late. On January 5th, 2020, not one, but 3 pregnancy tests confirmed a baby was growing inside of me. In a confusing whirlwind, I laughed and cried, and then I threw a coffee mug at Connor. What a weird time to be pregnant, and an even stranger time to find my footing in sobriety. God, Janice, Connor told me to stock up on groceries and withdraw $1,000 in cash. Later that day, when I stood under the shower wand, a mist of steam rose around me and tiny droplets bounced off my shoulders. I placed my hands on my belly and stared down as if I expected some maternal wisdom to tell me what to do. Titles of newspaper articles from Spain flashed through my mind. I had grabbed some of the last boxes of pasta from the shelf and waited to pay on a duct tape X. I had grabbed some of the last boxes of pasta from the shelf and waited to pay on a duct tape X. Why do I not understand this? I feel dumb. Why do I feel dumb? Titles of newspaper articles from Spain flashed through my mind. What titles? I'm wondering. Maybe include a few titles, or at least one after this thought. And then I had grabbed some of the last boxes of pasta from the shelf. And this is the part I don't understand. And why do I not understand it? Okay, I feel dumb. I'm just gonna admit it. Okay. I feel dumb. I don't understand. I don't. At least I can laugh at myself when I just don't understand. And I'm trying to, and my brain is not producing. I don't understand what this means. I'm totally laughing at myself. All right. Okay, I'm just going to stop. Okay. Every person in the market felt like a threat to our existence. What kind of world was I bringing a baby into? Tears joined the beads of water, pooling and gaining momentum as they rolled down my face and body. I'll never forget the date, March 12th, and California shut down as if it were a business flipping a close sign on the door. Our meetings at the community center halted that day too. Without missing a beat, someone created a Zoom platform. Being on camera made me sweat, and it was hard to be patient through the glitches and learning curves. More than a month passed without your attendance. I thought about calling, but found more compelling reasons not to. By the time I texted hello, it was May. 2 months to the day of that shower, we met masked for a walk. Despite not being a parent, the amount of wisdom and empathy you had for my situation surprised me. What do you mean when you keep saying give yourself compassion? You make it sound so obvious, I said. Self-care. Do you mean like painting my nails or taking a bath? Imagine this. Talk to yourself the way you would a friend. You wouldn't tell a friend they're broken, that nobody likes them, or that they should just die, would you? No, of course not. I'm going to pause. Okay, so I'm loving this. I like this interaction. What I think we need. Okay, I got to think about this. All right, so we write a memoir the way we write fiction. And often you've not had, not too often have you had dialogue where it's actual, I think, in quotations versus reflection. Does that make sense? So like this is that you and Janice actually having a walk and a talk. So you're basically having a scene. I'm approaching this from a fiction point of view because it's all I know, but luckily that's how they tell you to write a memoir. So we should be okay. Give Janet an action. Janice, so sorry. Give Janice an action here. Okay. So she says, 2 months to the day of that shower, we met masked for a walk. Despite not being a parent, the amount of wisdom and empathy you had for my situation surprised me. What do you mean when you keep saying give yourself compassion? You make it sound so obvious, I said. Also, I think you asked. Well, you asked. I said, no, it's fine. Self-care. Do you mean like painting my nails or taking a bath? I love that. Imagine this. Talk to yourself the way you would a friend. Let's give Janice how about a face? Did you mention before, you mentioned how she was dressed. What does her face look like? Is it wrinkled? Is there sunspots? Is there freckles? Is there any beauty marks? What color are her eyes, her lips? Is there when she talks, when she speaks, does she have like mannerisms or what do they call them? When you speak, your mouth might move a certain way. Take Alicia Silverstone, for example. When she speaks, like one side of her mouth kind of doesn't move. And it's always been that way. I don't know if there's a reason for it, if that's just how she speaks, but it's a trademark. Okay, that's something identifiable about her. And when you give this little description, it does not have to be long. It's just something to let your reader, this is Janice, but this is back and forth dialogue right here, and you have multiple paragraphs. And so I'm inclined to, like, here you have I said, which is, it's basic, but it works for what you're doing, and you're in the memoir setting. You're not in a fiction story setting. So you're not going to give like Janice's internal thoughts, you're in your point of view. But when you look at her, what do you see? Something that you saw and that you felt when you looked at her in this moment, if you can recall it. What did you notice? What does her face look like to you? What was she doing? Just give Janice something. Here, a face or an action, just a little something. Okay, and then can you have right here an internal thought? Okay, so you're having this conversation with her, and when she says this to you, you consider it, and then you respond. When you consider it, that is your internal thought. Tuck an internal thought about what Janice said here. A thought here before your response. Okay, so what do you think about what she has said to you? What is this? No, not here. No. Oh my goodness, it's not in the right spot. Why is it not in the right spot? I want it to go here. Maybe it'll go here. Tuck an internal thought here. There you go. All right. Oh, a face. Why did I say a face? Not a facial expression. A facial feature or expression or an action. Okay, there you go. That sounded weird. Okay. Self-care is practicing self-compassion. Sure, you can paint your nails. Then what? I want you to think about it on a daily scale. Being kind to yourself, having boundaries, taking a walk, embracing support. These are all examples of self-care. All right, good. I don't think she has to have anything here. I just kind of wanted a little bit of something here and here, and I think that'll keep you going. On our way back to the parking lot, a swallowtail butterfly fluttered around us, landing a few paces ahead. I assigned the photo I took to your contact. To this day, whenever you call, the image covers my screen, a totem of transformation. For a long time after, I thought about our conversations. Love this paragraph. Love it. I've even got a little lump in the back of my throat. It's very beautiful. You supported me while I worked the steps with my young sponsor. That is, up until step 4. Compiling a list of resentments and looking at my part felt like ripping wounds open. After masterful avoidance and negotiations, I filled a few pages with angry rants. Words collided with each other, rattling off my tongue in an eagerness to escape. My sponsor's house had red tile floors, and although it was June, the sun hadn't yet warmed the space. The chill, coupled with my anxiety, had me determined to withhold. Okay, my brain is stopping. Why is my brain stopping? Do I feel like... Okay, let me look. I'm wondering if there should have been 2 paragraphs here. And my brain started wondering it, and then it tripped me up it detracted me from the text. You supported me while I worked the steps with my young sponsor. That is up until step 4. Compiling a list of resentments and looking at my part felt like ripping wounds open. After masterful avoidance and negotiations, I filled a few pages with angry rants. Words collided with each other, rattling off my tongue in an eagerness to escape. Now, right here, my brain started saying, maybe we need this to be a different paragraph. I'm going to put it down here. We may change our mind and move it back up. But for the moment, I'm going to tuck it down there and we're going to keep going. My sponsor's house had red tile floors, and although it was June, the sun hadn't yet warmed the space. The chill, coupled with my anxiety, had me determined to withhold the darkest, most shameful exchanges. I worried she'd tell her boyfriend, and my resentments would spread back to Connor. Within an hour, we smoked a celebratory cigarette to commemorate the AA milestone. While I knew I'd half-assed the exercise in self-appraisal and confession, she didn't. Relieved it was over, my attention shifted to the virtual baby shower, scheduled for the 2nd week of July. Thanks for attending. I know showers weren't your scene, mine either. However, I will say, I felt so loved. I couldn't believe these women delivered a trunk full of gifts and sat on Zoom celebrating me. Not to mention the 10-day meal train come September. I kind of want this to be that came in September, I think. And I'm stingy with words too, or I don't mean to, like I'm not implying that you are, but I'm stingy with words, and I kind of see that you like to be tight, nice, and no unnecessary stuff in there to detract from your voice. Not to mention the 10-day meal train that came in September. I very rarely would tell you to add more words, and you're actually looking to add words. I got P trying to get rid of words and you trying to add words. Janice, you dropped off enough food to feed a soccer team. We ate leftover ribs and potatoes for days. My due date, the 1st of September, came and went. And thank God, too. Surreal to pace the halls of Connor's sister's house, waiting for updates from CAL FIRE. On Wednesday, while we were loading the van to evacuate, I wondered if I should pack the crib. Would we have a home to bring our baby back to? The fire merged with another, growing larger and out of control. Come Saturday, they evacuated you too. So I know you can relate to the trauma. Even now, hearing of wildfires brings me to tears. Days later, and on arguably one of the most memorable dates in American history, Ava was born. When people comment 9/11, my go-to response is that the date stood still for me twice, rocking my world both times. I love that you printed off that first photo I sent you and framed it in your entryway. Excitement of her birth blurred into October, and in the blink of an eye, Connor and I were wheeling her stroller through a Christmas tree farm. And life was great. Why was I still hurting and filled with fear? I'm going to suggest then why. I kind of want you to pause, and life was great. I'm going to play with this for a second. We can always undo it. So I want to say, okay, so there's an exception, all right? You're having you know what it is? It's the word and. So a lot of times when we write a sentence and we start it with and, the very next sentence will start with but. And that is what you avoided, but it's what, I think it's what my brain is going to, because you have, and life is great. And then you have an exception. It's kind of the but. You have a but here. This is the but. Life should be great, but I'm still hurting. Okay, so, and life was great. So why was I still hurting and filled with fear? Also, as from one mom to another, I live feeling this every day, and I still question it, and I still pick it apart, and I still work on myself every day. I think I hold myself under a microscope, and this feeling is exhausting. I'm so happy in the moments that there's like a reprieve from the ever living knot that is in my solar plexus. And they're brief, because the minute that I let down my guard, I'm terrified something terrible will happen. Partly because that was my experience. I did let my guard down and something terrible happened. And I think after that, you kind of put up this ever bracing for the worst kind of sensation that I battle with. Okay, so what are we going to do in this situation? Let's look at it. You could say, Connor and I were wheeling her stroller through a Christmas tree farm. Life was great. So then why was I still hurting and filled with fear? I don't know what Grammarly is going to say if I recommended. Oh, you know what? Just leave it like that. Leave your little dots there. Trying to avoid starting with but, yet this is a literal but situation. It could be fine the way you had it, but I kind of wanted to give it emphasis, and maybe that happens by separating it. I don't know. You could even consider dropping the and if you wanted. Might consider dropping and. Yeah. Okay. Life was great. But here I still want a so or a but or so why or so then why, it's a want. I want it. Okay. I'm going to let you figure it out. You've got my musings. We're going to move on. Nothing changes if nothing changes. While I had quit numbing out with substances, I still lacked courage. Boundaries might as well have been a moat dug around a sandcastle, and shame crippled my self-esteem. I cringed to think of the people I had slept with, the family gatherings I missed, and the birthday gifts I never sent. So once more, I asked you to be my sponsor. Our time together has been powerful. You helped me to navigate relationships, protect my peace, and heal parts of me I never imagined possible. Compared to that fourth step I wrote in 2020, it took me almost 7 hours to read through my list of 88 resentments and look at my part in all of them. You had told me to be sure to add myself to the list, as it was clear I was my own worst enemy. That proved more challenging than my high school essay on The Sound and the Fury by William Stream of Conscious Faulkner. Okay, Janice, it's not in order, but I'm going to read my resentments of myself first. Otherwise, I'm afraid I will bow out and never do it. With that, I jumped in, detailing the countless ways I had harmed myself and all the situations I felt others did too. And my most shameful lows you countered with your own barstool horror stories. Come to find out, I am just as human as the next person, layered with behaviors of charm and folly alike. While my slate wasn't wiped clean, I got to see how to prevent similar situations in the future. Oh my God, I love this. I love it. 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 I love all of it. I got a little lump in my throat. I got the feels. It's beautiful. It's growth. It's finding the right person to help you go to that next place that was your goal. Oh, I'm so excited and so happy for you. It's so beautiful. We're going to keep going. Ava won't stop crying. She's been fussy all day with a fever of 103. I need to cancel our meeting call tomorrow. Later that day, I called you back, pacing my living room, gazing through soggy tears. Okay, did we have soggy eyelashes earlier? Was it this chapter or another one? I feel like it was when we were on the plane with the mom. So that was chapter 12. I feel like we might have had soggy lashes there. I'm going to highlight this for a second for reference. Okay. And I'm inclined to keep reading, but I also want to kind of go hunting for soggy tears. And I don't want to forget. Well, let's see. Let's read down to this break, and then we'll go looking for soggy tears. Later that day, I called you back, pacing my living room, gazing through soggy tears. We have 3 commas as well. So I think you could omit this whole thing, honestly. I know we're looking to gain words for you, but I think you could let it go. Later that day, I called you back, pacing my living room. Some bureaucratic red tape. The first of the month in our clinic was being reassigned by our insurance. Of all the days to be stuck in limbo, the only option for medical treatment was going to the hospital. I don't want to waste hospital resources on a cold, but she's shaking and listless. They'll only allow one parent because COVID, I confessed. I don't want to be so brave. A tremor raced from my spine to my fingers as the adrenaline lapsed and tears seeped through. Janice, I was so touched by your offer to pay out of pocket for her medical expenses to avoid the trauma of the emergency department. There was something different in your voice. While I was scared for Ava, you were scared for me. All my life, I struggled to believe that I was lovable. In that conversation, plain as day, I saw your fierce love for me and my little family. Oh my God. Oh my God. Feels, huge feels, huge. Okay. And I want to, okay. I gotta let the feels go. You guys are, I'm reading for the most amazing writers. Okay. So, how Janice was afraid for you. I was already starting to feel back here as this whole thing happened, unfolded. Like, she didn't want anything to trigger you into like some kind of relapse or a cascading situation. Like you're literally calling out for help here. And so she rose to the occasion, and I love that. Love it. Okay. This is fantastic. So I'm going to go looking for soggy, but if you cut this whole thing, it resolves the whole issue. Let me see if I can, for myself, I'm going to highlight in bright blue so that I can find my spot back as we scroll around. So we are currently in, I think it was chapter 11, and chapter 12 is where I'm remembering it from. And I could be wrong, and that would be great. Or maybe it was, I'm inclined, there it is, soggy lashes. Okay. So it's in 2 different chapters, but it's worth pointing out, what color did we color soggy? Green. It's in different chapters, so technically you wouldn't be a thing. However, soggy is not a commonly used word that I can think of in my years of writing. Yes, used, but not commonly. And because it's not commonly used, if you begin using it more than once in your piece and with a similar pairing or use, for example, soggy lashes, soggy tears, then we may be early identifying a potential crutch phrase. So meaning a phrase that you might start to use again and again. I have caught myself doing that with gently squeezed. Okay, so relying on gently squeeze when someone holds a hand and they're trying to give reassurance, they gently squeezed their hand. And so it's in one of my better pieces that I have written. I found out that that's where I was doing. I was like, oh, I've got an issue here. I've got like 5 times in the whole book. And then I've realized I've started to find it in other pieces I've written. Oh no, it's a phrase that I have to keep an eye out for. So I'm going to draw your attention to that just for that purpose, and we are going to continue, and you can decide whatever you want to do with that. Despite our reliance on technology through the pandemic, I couldn't imagine what our relationship would look like once we moved to Oregon. Maintaining our weekly meetings has been a constant that's eased my transition up here, forging our own path. There is something to be said for a fresh start. You've stuck by me, even with my crying baby interruptions. Side by side with my children, I am growing up. This is where your influence has been vital. Your probing forced me to become a detective, uncovering patterns and confronting the less than desirable motives that drive me. I'll start by acknowledging my defensiveness. Easier to say that first, to soften the sting of admitting what comes next. Here it is. I am manipulative, pointing out others' flaws or killing them with kindness, all strategies to shift things in my favor. And of course, I crave validation. Love me, tell me you love me. Traits that are woven into me like honey in a hive, sweet on the surface, but sticky, trapping me in unhealthy behaviors. For such an independent, ambitious woman, you have an unrivaled gentleness. Your loving guidance has helped me to see these patterns for what they are. While I hate spelling out these flaws because now you'll know about me too, I'm starting to believe that seeing them through untainted lenses is the way to break free. Freedom from harmful patterns and severing ties with my shame. The cause and effect is obvious. The sex, a mere manifestation of not wanting to be alone and basing my self-worth on whether or not someone wanted me. How human. While not excusing the reckless behaviors, I no longer carry them in a place of feeling dirty and damaged and ultimately less than deserving. You have empowered me to build my self-esteem by doing esteemable acts, showing up at the bridal shower because I gave my word, managing my time in alignment with my values, and being conscientious to contribute, not contaminate. Don't you know, I hear that in my head all day, Janice. We're hoping visit in November. Can't wait to share space again. Thank you for all the ways you've impacted my life. And one more big congratulations on your last 28 years. Okay, so I'm going to read some of the notes you've got in here on the side. Thinking we're going to suggest hoping to visit. I don't know why that seems extreme. Oh my goodness. We just want to add a 2 right in the middle here. We didn't need to go all slashing through there. One thing I did notice in this particular chapter, and we're going to go through and highlight it for observation, is beginning sentences with and. And I think we've talked about this a couple times, and I feel like I don't want to sound too repetitious, but as we're looking at it, I'm just going to skim over my comment. I'm not going to go in deep on it. I can't direct you to an actual video where I know that I've talked about it in depth. But as it pops up, it's worth mentioning, and that way anybody who's new or listening can also catch it if they haven't happened to have listened to whatever video it is that I've previously mentioned it in. Oh, what pretty color do we want? I'm going to go ahead and have my little color fun. We're going to go with the blue. I think they work pretty good, and they're kind of pleasant-ish. It's kind of gray. I don't want it to be depressing. Let's see. Let's go with a little maybe warmer blue. It only changed one spot. I know. Stop fooling with the dang on colors. Okay. So we have an and there, and we have an and here. And my point in this, and we're going to talk about and but really quick. So I distinctly remember, I can even see my high school English teacher, who I was lucky enough to have my sophomore and junior year and really liked me a lot. And liked my writing, even though it was not fantastic back then, but my storytelling was solid. It's kind of, that's always been there. She pulled me aside and she said, you need to show, not tell. But part of her English class, anyway, that's always what she told me, and I never could understand it because she appreciated my writing and my ability, but she really didn't know how to take it to another level. I don't feel like that was in her scope. So she would tell me to show, not tell, but then she couldn't help me to understand what she meant by that. And so that's been a thing that I have worked for years to figure out. But that is not what that's not exactly what I wanted to talk about. I can see her face standing in front of the classroom saying, you don't start sentences with and or but. And that was just the rule. There was no explanation as to why, or if there was, I was just lost in grabbing the rule and threw the explanation part out the window. But basically, she kind of pointed out that when you look at a sentence that starts with and or but, sometimes you can just take the and right out of there and start with the very next word. And the way to figure out if it's going to work or not is you can either delete it and then read it without it. And if you don't like it, put it back, or just pretend it's not there and try it that way. What a weird time to be pregnant. An even stranger time to find my footing in sobriety. So see, it worked there. It worked. You could just very simply remove it. Sometimes I want it, but and I have since also read where you can use start a sentence with and or but you don't want to do it like more. You don't want it to be a frequent thing. I kind of set a rule for myself of maybe once or twice in a chapter, maybe trying to do just once. Very sparingly, and usually I will do in my revision process, I will go through and do a search for the word, and any sentences that start with it, I'll literally do what I just did up here, and then I can remove a whole bunch of ands and strengthen my writing. So I'm going to go through and highlight them to kind of give you a perspective on it. It was reading really well, so many feelings that we want it to be just the best it can be, and so we're going to give pause to this because I did notice a few of them, and I want to just kind of see how many there were. Now, I have found that I tend to lean on and when I'm feeling very passionate about something. In a poetic voice kind of comes to the front, lots of feelings, and it's interesting that this is a very emotional, very powerful piece. This chapter, not that there's so many of yours that are. Let's see. We're still rolling along. You might just do a search for it in case I'm missing any of them. I didn't point it out right off because like I said, I kind of look the other way for a couple of them, one or two, but if I've noticed more than that, then it's worth mentioning to you so that you can see it and decide for yourself. So I'm kind of scrolling through. I may have missed some, therefore I'm recommending that you do a search for it and kind of scan yourself. But this little quick go through here will give us some perspective. Kind of checking one more time as I go back, and then we're going to count them just to kind of give you a vision of it to see. I think we're good. And it's such a super easy thing to fix that if I'm going to have someone tell me I need to make a correction, that's a dreamy correction because it's easy, or a correction where you're going to have options instead of like rewriting a whole segment or adding a point of view. That's what I'm facing, is adding an entire point of view, which has actually really been good for the piece that I'm working on, but I don't really have time to work on it. So I typically get it out about 1 month a year. Someday my one whole book will be done because, that's just how much time I have for myself. So, okay, I think we're back to the top. And I did not look for any buts, but I didn't notice any other. Okay, so we're at the top. Let's just give a quick count through to kind of see if there's possibly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not too terrible bad. 6. Okay, 7. So 7 in one chapter. I would aim for 1 or 2. But it's a super easy fix to go through and read and just see if you dropped it, if it still reads just as well. So, yeah, that's it. I loved this chapter. I had a lump in my throat through at least 2 or 3 parts of it. So, very good. I love you're continuing to show growth here. So this is great. Oh, I meant to read your notes. Okay, so, okay, you got one right here. This will go after Oblivion Full Speed Ahead, the chapter with Psych Hold and Cowboy AA meeting. Okay. Oh, wait. Is there more to the note? No. Okay, we're good. And then here's this one. Other concern to look for: how's balance between showing, telling action, and introspection? How's the pace? The pace is good for me. I also like how you're organizing it, where you're showing your growth. I can see it here. As I read the chapter at the end of it, I'm like, okay, and if you ask yourself, what is the goal of this chapter and did you accomplish it? I'm going to say, if you're starting to show how you rounded a corner and you started to grow and improve, what that journey was. You're showing that, and you're even showing where there was the potential for for making a mistake, or falling off the wagon, or whatever you want to call it. There was risk. Okay, there was because a lot of times we know that stress triggers us to go back to our old habits to cope with. You're triggered into a stress reaction. You get my point. And so you showed a moment when the baby was sick, and that you didn't internalize that you were thinking that, but Janice it seems like she kind of saw that the potential for this to take you off of your path, and you're healing, and you're doing well, and you're growing, and you're progressing. And this was that was a moment when you needed someone, and to feel safe and secure, and to feel cared about. And so she rose to the occasion. So let's see. Other concerns. So balance between showing, telling, and act. You have this this beautiful voice, and so you do weave your storytelling really well. I enjoyed this chapter. I mean, I've enjoyed all of this, but this one, I had lots of feels. Like I had to take a breath. So it's working for me. Let's see. That was me. I want to make sure I don't miss any more notes from you. Okay. If this is your first draft, you write a really clean first draft. So super excited for you. You're so talented. Okay. How does the pace feel thus far? Does it seem too slow, or are you connecting with the storyline and feeling it move through? I'm feeling your journey. Like I just said at the beginning, I'm moving along with your journey. I'm seeing your growth and the change and the transition. So no, and it's working for me. I'm enjoying it. So, but I am one neurodivergent person. So when you're done with me, grab you a fresh beta reader and see what they say. Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking of, I always wonder what someone's going to come back with when they beta read for me. And sometimes do you ever get like really off the wall stuff where you're like, wow, okay, that was not really necessary or helpful. And I don't mean just like a comment about what their personal opinion is about something, but some of the things people point out, I'm like, this is really strange thing to point out. Our brains work in such unique ways, and we're all so different, that what grabs our attention, or how we see things and how we interpret them and how we process them, in some level it's the same by the general guidelines that we're taught, but then we all have our own quirks underneath of it. And so like I'm extremely empathic. So when you're working with something that's all feeling related, I'm here for it, and I know what to do I know what to do to write feelings. Sometimes I write in a role play with a couple of other friends, and whenever there's an emotional scene, now don't get me wrong, because one of them, she's incredibly masterful at writing feelings as well, but sometimes she'll be like, I'm going to pass this one to you, and I'll write the really powerful emotional scene. I can write action, but I feel like she writes it better. So we all have our strengths and our skills, and then we can learn from each other. So I hope that I'm helping and giving good recommendations, but writing a memoir is not, it's not my specialty. It's not my wheelhouse, but everything that I've read basically says that you write it the same way you write fiction. And so I'm enjoying your voice, the timing, the growth, the progress, the risk inside of it. So yeah, it's working for me. So on that note, I still have to go. I'm going to go and read your revised chapter 1, and then I'm hoping to also read your revised chapter 6 today. So I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to go over and do that now. So guys, I will see you next time on Mystery Red Reads.